All right, so 7.7, scale drawings and models. Scale drawing or model is a drawing with lengths proportional to the object it represents. Obviously, this whole chapter is about proportions, so that's what we're talking about. A scale factor for a scale drawing is written as a unitless ratio. In simplest form, you always reduce, right? Model length comes first. I would underline or highlight that part. I feel like people might forget that. So the model length comes first is pretty important. So today we're going to be using rulers. I do not want to make you feel dumb by any means, but I'm going to pretend you've never seen a ruler or you haven't seen it in a long time and you maybe don't remember how to use one. Okay? So obviously you don't have this example, but if you look at mine, with a ruler, obviously you start, the end point is on the 0. Okay? What am I on, by the way? If I'm measuring with this side of my ruler, I'm on centimeters. This one would be inches. Yours has centimeters and inches on it, so you should know, okay? So this is centimeters, right? So you start at the 0. So you put the 0 where the end of the line is. And then obviously, if you look at mine, it's at least 8 and something, right? It's past the 8. But it's not at 8.5. That's easy when it's at exactly the halfway mark, right? So if you look, I know it's kind of hard to see from where you're sitting probably, but if you look at your ruler, how many tick marks are in between the 8 and the 9? Count your tick marks. There's 10 of them, right? So this one is 8 and 1, 2, 3. I think like I'm going to say 3. So that would be 8 and 3/10, which is 8.3. 8.3 centimeters. Does that make sense? Okay. Thanks. So that's how you use it, right? And if you're on inches, you just flip it around. Same concept. Okay? Number 3, we don't need those yet, but we'll go ahead and just start with this one. Carlos made a scale model of a local bridge. The model spans 6 inches. The actual bridge spans 50 feet. What is the scale of the model? So again, if you go back to the top of your notes, it says model length comes first. So what am I going to write first? The 6 inches, right? And what comes after that? The 50 feet. This is kind of like your key, I guess, sort of. All right, what scale factor did Carlos use to build his model? So when we do this, we have to be in the same unit before we can simplify. Okay, so I'm going to change both of those to feet. How many feet is 6 inches? Half a foot, right? Over 50 feet. And then we reduce. So you could use your calculator, take 0.5 divided by 50. And then you want this to be a fraction because it's going to be a ratio. Say it again. The scale factor is the one that we simplified. You see up there, it says scale factor in simplest form. The scale model is just 6 inches is the model, and then 50 feet is the actual bridge. Not for this. What's 0.5 over 50? Change it to a fraction. Yeah, it's going to be 1 to 100. So our answer to part B is 1 to 100. This is our unitless ratio, 1 to 100. We had to change it to the same unit before we could move on, but at the end, there's no units. Okay? All right, for question 5, you're going to have to go to page 520 in your book. Okay? It says, use the map on page 520 and a ruler to find the actual distance between Guyman and Oklahoma City. So when you go to page 520, they call that key, right? When they tell you like how many inches is a mile or something like that. That's key, right? Or legend, I think they call it that too. Okay. So what is our key here? Yes, 1.5 centimeters is 100 kilometers. So we're trying to find out how many kilometers they really are. So I have to measure in centimeters because they gave me centimeters, right? So use your centimeter side of your ruler as accurately as possible. And how far away are the two, I guess, cities? I am getting 5.6, but I would accept 5.5 as well. Okay, so that's what I want you guys to know. I'm going to do 5.6 because that's what I have. Okay, but I would accept, when you do the math, I would accept anything between 5.5 and 5.7. So if you had anything in there, my answers as a key are a range of answers. It's not like the assignment we just graded where I said like X is 4, that's it. So on this one, when we use 5.6, let's see what we get, and I'll tell you what acceptable answers would be. So cross multiply and divide. And what do we get? And a third. 373 and a third kilometers. So what I want you to know is that's not the only answer I'm going to say out loud when we grade it, okay? So if you had used 5.5, for example, 5.5 times 100 divided by 1.5, I would have accepted 366 and 2/3 all the way through whatever you get when you plug in a 5.7. So I accept a range of possible answers as long as you're close. Does that make sense? Okay, so you want to be as accurate as possible, but it doesn't have to be exactly what I say. Okay? Did I lose anybody on that one? All right. So now you're going to do, this is number 7, not 5. Number 7, you're going to use the map on page 520 again to find the distance between Enid and Tulsa. So we still have the 1.5 centimeters over the 100 kilometers. And you guys measure in centimeters as closely as possible. I got 2.6 again. So, but 2.5 would have been acceptable. It would have been in my range of answers at the end. So I got 2.6. Okay. So centimeters. So go ahead and cross multiply and divide. What'd you get? Yeah, so I said 173 and a third kilometers. Are you guys okay? So again, I don't want you to think you're wrong. If you said 2.5 or 2.7 or anything in between there, that would be fine. And your range of answers at the end would be fine. It doesn't have to be exactly what I said, okay? All right, last one. Use the map on page 521 to find out how long it will take to drive from Valdosa, Georgia to Daytona Beach, Florida, traveling at 65 miles per hour. What we have to find out first is how far away are they, right? So we have to do what we just did again. So this time, what's our key? 1 inch to 200 miles. So you have to use the inches part of your ruler, okay? So switch over to inches and see how far away they are. Okay, so I did 14 over 16 inches, which is 7 over 8 inches is how I did it. Okay? Do you guys see that? But do you see where I got the 14 over 16? Is that okay? Are you on the inches side? And what are you getting? How are you getting that? How are you getting that? How many tick marks did you count? That's why okay, that's how you're getting it. So if you look, there's 16 tick marks in between. Are we in between 0 and 1, I'm guessing? Right? There's 16. Do you see what I'm saying? So I'm getting 14 out of 16 because it's not 10. So people keep saying 0.8 to me today, and I'm like, oh, well, 14 divided by 16 is 0.8 something. So I keep thinking that's where they're getting it from, but thank you for saying it that way. I didn't realize it's out of 16 because it's inches. Okay? So it's 14 out of 16, which I reduced to 7 over 8. Okay? So put 7 over 8 in here. So take 7/8 times 200. Obviously, you don't have to divide by 1. That doesn't really help anything. And see how many miles apart they are. So we should get 175 miles. Is everybody okay with that? That's not anything new from what we did on the last two. Okay. The new part says, how long will it take you to get there? So I know it's 175 miles away, and I'm driving at 65 miles per hour. Have any of you had chemistry yet or before or now? Okay. You don't have to, but if you had chemistry and you guys have done, I'm assuming factor label by now, that's kind of what I'm going to do here. Okay. So if we're driving at 65 miles per hour and we want to know how long it's going to take, do I want the miles to cancel where I'm left with hours, or do I want hours to cancel where I'm left with miles? So I want to know how long something's going to take me. It'd be in hours kind of a thing, right? So I want my miles to cancel. So I have 65 miles in 1 hour. Do you guys see my miles canceled out. You guys understand that? Okay. So technically, mathematically, that's 175 divided by 65. If you want, you can multiply by the 1 and divide by 65, but that's kind of silly. Okay. So take 175 divided by 65, and we'll see how many hours that takes. So you get 2.7 hours, but does anybody say I'll see you in 2.7 hours? That's kind of weird, right? So I know it's 2 hours for sure. So I need to see 0.7 hours is how many minutes is what I'm going to convert now. Okay. How many minutes are in an hour? 60. So here's the question. I want the hours to cancel. So I put the hours on the bottom and the minutes on top. You guys understand that? So they cancel out. So you're going to take 0.7 times 60 and you get 42 minutes. So it's going to take us about, right, 2 hours and 42 minutes to get there. If you left it here, I'm not going to mark that wrong. It's just kind of unrealistic. Nobody says I'll be there in 2.7 hours. It's kind of weird. You might say 2.5 hours, but nobody says 0.7. Yeah. They gave it to me? Is that okay? Okay. Anybody still confused at all? Okay. On your assignment, there's not too many questions. It shouldn't take you too long. You should get it done in class with my rulers. If you don't get it done, obviously I still need my rulers back, but you can come back during winter or something and get them again. Okay? Go ahead and get started, guys. Let me know what you need.